Welcome to Holistic Human Performance Podcast. My name is Gena Bradshaw, where we talk all things holistic health, wellness, spirituality, fitness, meditation, energetics, and so much more to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. Let's dive in. This is not medical advice. This is simply to help you on your journey through health, fitness, and wellness. I hope this helps. You can complement this with anything that you are doing currently in your life. Enjoy. Hey guys, Gena here, and I am so excited to announce that the Holistic Human Performance Virtual Wellness Center is officially launched. Yep, that's right. We've officially launched. And this is like having a holistic health and energy coach in your back pocket. If you need a 5-minute reset, okay, great. What do we have? You need breath work. Okay, great. You need a little bit of mobility flow, nutrition coaching. Great. You can access all of these on-demand videos and self-paced digital courses for a 5-day free trial. That's right. I'm giving this to you guys for a 5-day free trial so you can try it out, see if you like it, see if it works for you, and see if it actually is conducive to your lifestyle and it helps you to create change. It is literally like having me in your back pocket. So again, I'm giving you this for a 5-day free trial. Head on over to holistichumanperformance.co and get your free trial today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Gena Bradshaw, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Renee Greene Murphy. She is a children's author, and I think you're the first children's author that I've had on this podcast, so I'm really excited to talk about this specific topic because I know it's very important. She's the winner of the 2023 and 2024 Family Choice Awards and Mom's Choice Award for her children's book, Your Heart's Voice. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So let's just dive in. What made you want to write a children's book? Because this is a very, specific genre to write about, and it's very impressionable on the children. So what made you want to write this book?
For that reason, you just hit the nail on the head. I'm a school counselor, certified school counselor in New York State, and I was counselor in Harlem for 10 years in New York City. And before I had children, and books are the foundation of learning.
Yep.
That is what we use as tools in the classroom, outside of the classroom. Children learn how to potty train simply by reading books and looking at the pictures, what to do next. I mean, it's everything from friendships to family values to ABCs, right? And so as a counselor, that sparked my interest. But then as a mother, I realized reading books to my children. At the time, I had Avery was probably 5, and my second child was born. And I remember I was on the treadmill. My husband was to my right watching TV, and the kids were asleep. And I said to him, at that point, I wasn't a school counselor. I was a stay-at-home mom. And I said, what am I going to do? I need to do something. I'm not going to go back into the school district yet. Always wanted to write a book. And I'm highly intuitive. And I noticed at that point, I couldn't find any children's books about what your intuition is and how to. And it's a hard concept for people to understand if they don't tap into it on the regular. If you do, which I highly encourage everyone to, it's an easier concept. But for children, it's daunting. And I needed to find a way to not only explain it through pictures and the right words simplistically, but so that they could realize how to use it. And so that's how the idea came about. I put it down, and years later, I would say it was last year, my brother tragically passed in a car accident. And I found throughout grief, the grieving process is very complex. It is easy to become depressed and not want to go on with, daily life functions. He was the youngest out of the four of us children. It came as a complete shock. He wasn't sick. There was no timing, that was associated with it, that we could have ever expected this to happen to him. He was only 33.
Oh,
And I have parents that are, healthy and alive, and then the three of us children. And I went to writing. I think I just started going back to just writing in not necessarily a journal, but I just started writing again. I think I just didn't even, I think I subconsciously started doing it because I think as
mm.
a child, I would just write poetry when I was feeling like at my worst. So I think I just started writing. And then I remembered I had this manuscript that I began in 2017. And I was like, I'm just going to go back to that. So I changed the character. She was Divine at the time. And I changed her name to Jade because it means the jewel of heavens. And I
Oh,
tie my brother in. Aside from obviously being dedicated, I wanted to tie him into the story subliminally at first. And so the cover has Jade at the beach, and these are things that I was doing to help with my grieving. I was meditating at the beach daily. I felt connected to him mostly there at the beach, and I think just my five senses were more alert there. And when we're clear and we're calm is when we are more apt to tap into our intuition. And so that's where I found that happening more. So that's the cover of the story, but um, I then added him as a main character. And so Jade learns three life lessons throughout the story, very simple: eating vegetables, cleaning up, putting things away. And then by the end, her heart's voice, which is her intuition, tells her to draw an angel for her uncle. So that was my way of tying him into it. His name is Robert, and he's the one that explains to her your heart's voice is actually your intuition.
oh, that is so beautiful. I am like getting teary-eyed. Like the fact that you had this idea and a written manuscript, right, in 2017.
Yeah, the beginning stages, yeah.
That's so wild. And then all this time has passed, and then, you had a tragic situation happen with your family and a loved one. And like interestingly enough, it just kind of you used your intuition and you went to writing and he became a part of the book, which is like, oh my gosh, my heart is just like exploding right now. I'm so glad that you decided to do that because I don't think I've ever shared this story before, but when I was younger, you said you're intuitive. So what growing up in my family, like it was never spoken about. Like we didn't talk about intuition, like a little bit, like your gut, all those things, but not in a way of like, if you have a connection to your angels and things like that. And so I had an experience when I was like 8 years old, maybe seven. I was just like in the playroom and like I was rattling something, and all of a sudden I blocked it out of my memory. All of a sudden it just stopped. I couldn't like push it back, like something was like holding it. It was in mid-air and I blacked out. I was so scared that I just like didn't even tell anyone because I was a child. But again, I didn't really grow up with that kind of, knowledge of what that actually would be or could be. And so I'm really glad that you decided to write a book on that because you're right. There really isn't, I mean, it's more coming out now, but there really isn't anything for children in a positive light of like your intuition is your guiding light. It is your heart's voice.
Yeah. There's teen books, and then there's books written by psychologists. There's counseling books. There's books for parents. But after doing my research years ago, and even up until now, when I published it, there were no children's picture books. And
Mm,
as a school counselor working with K through sixth grade in the city, that's where the need begins because that's where the foundation begins for learning. And so, usually, when you understand what your intuition is as a child, just like anything else, it's like a muscle that you use and then it grows stronger, right? Just like our brain cells, right? The more we read, the more intelligent we become. So, just using that skill of tapping into our intuition, being aware of it, being intuitively aware and then tapping into it, it grows stronger. We rely on it. And it's no longer this scary thing. It's no longer the boogeyman. It's no longer
Right.
even questionable. What is it? Every family has different names for it. It's your conscience. You're right.
Right.
Gut. It's your instincts. I just used it in a visual again so that children would understand by saying it's your heart's voice. Because I truly believe when we leave with our heart as opposed to our ego, even I'm talking anyone, adulthood,
Yep.
it steers us in the right direction as opposed to our ego and our mind always second guessing, right? And then we start to like overthink. And that's actually the opposite of what our intuition is intended to do and to be there.
Right.
And it's to
Right.
make lives easier. If we're on the right path, then we don't have fear and we don't have doubt and we don't have nowadays how you see so many children following the crowd. Social
Mm-hmm.
huge proponent for that, right? And kids are learning about things that their minds can't even truly understand. And so if we tapped into our intuition more, which is our God-given gift, our own inner thoughts, our feeling, our guiding light, it actually will boost self-esteem because we'll see we're on the right path. We're making good choices. It comes with feeling positive, good about ourselves, right? To me, that's a win-win. Isn't that what we're here for? To just like
Absolutely.
independent life learners who are contributing in the best way to society and by helping ourselves. As a mother, I know that that's one of the most important things that I want to do is to teach my children confidence, my son, my daughters. It goes a long way in this world. I think it's very important. I think it starts.
Absolutely. It starts in the home. And honestly, having, I think, like parents too, like they need to be aware of that. They need to be doing their work as well so that it becomes like a normalized thing in the household. Um, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, Dr. Lisa Miller. She talks about the neuroscience of spirituality, and it is so fascinating. And she goes on to say, like, why is it that suicide rates are trickling down to middle school and all of these things that are happening to young children? And she's saying it's this disconnect, like, of spirituality, of that connection to something greater. And also, like, the contributing factors of the environment, like not learning it in school, not learning it in the home. People telling you you're weird because you're going with your gut or you see angels, and. So my question is, how do you implement with your children these types of tools and modalities to enhance their self-esteem and tap a little bit more into their intuition? What's that look like for you?
Well, I mimic a lot of what my book says,
Hmm.
practice what I preach. So I do use language like what does your heart's voice tell you, as opposed to what is your head telling you to do. The first thing that you feel, right? Just like if we're doing something and it doesn't feel right, we feel uneasy, it's probably not the right choice.
Right.
When you're surrounding yourself with people who make you feel good, you feel happier, you feel more at ease, you feel more comfortable. Well, then that is your heart's voice leading you in the right direction. So I always like to be consistent with my language. They know about my book, they're in it. But so I always revert back to the feeling of how you feel when you're making that choice. They understand the concepts of right and wrong. Intrinsically, I like to lead with that. One would argue that perhaps my book is just not that I've heard this, but I can see where someone might think that my book might be telling children do it because it makes your parents happy in the instance with eating her vegetables, but she also feels happy about that. And I think,
Mm,
hey, I think that that's a good thing. I think that it also enhances our ability to tap into our conscience. Intrinsically, don't we want others to feel happy when we're feeling happy or we're making good choices, right? It's almost like I'll give you a simple example. If my daughter takes something of my other daughters, she might be upset, right? So she might be upset with her and telling her, don't do that, don't come back in my room. And so you clearly see that you made your sister upset by doing that without asking, how does that make you feel? And so tapping back into your feelings and not wanting to make your sister upset makes you lead with your intrinsic feeling of wanting to make good choices and do good because it makes others feel good, it makes you feel good. And
right.
so I like to revert back to that as opposed to leading with ego and the mind. I think that there's like a good balance, but I do know that when you're leading with the mind, it kind of veers you off of
Yeah.
the whole point of what my book's about.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, like the things that I've learned over the years and like where I'm at right now, learning about spirituality, learning about intuition and listening to the body instead of up here in the mind so much, the body is the wise one. It holds all the answers that we need. And I wish I obviously, everything happens for a reason, but like I wish I knew these things like earlier on in life. And so, especially like if you're dealing with trauma or like, an abusive environment in the home when you're a child, those things are so important because that's going to help you navigate that situation.
Yeah. I never
And
had problems sleeping, but when my brother passed, all of a sudden my whole right shoulder went out. I couldn't sleep. I was at the acupuncturist. I was at the chiropractor. I mean, I had never had an injury or anything. And I went through 30 pillows, trying it's the pillow, it's the thread count, whatever. And no, it took a year before I started sleeping again. But I know that it was the trauma of a broken heart.
yeah,
It's real, and dis-ease, right, in our body creates disease and pain, and I think the emotional pain affects you physically. And so yeah, there's a definitely an effect between our emotional state and our physical, and listening to our body and paying attention to our body and tapping into our body. Again, I think it's also a muscle that grows. The more that children learn how to do that, the more confident they rely on it because they see, oh, I'm on the right path. I remember when I listened to my heart's voice and I made that choice, it was the right one. I'm going to do that again and again, and then they build on that. It's no longer questionable as they get older, right? In their teen years, when they're exposed to so many, divisiveness and negativity and scary stuff going on in the world, they'll be able to tap into their own intuition, and then hopefully share it with their friends. I mean, that's the goal.
absolutely. No, that is so crucial to our society evolving. It really does start with the youth because if they're growing up in an environment where they aren't able to decipher with their moral compass or their intuition and try to like navigate through by listening to their body. I can literally name 5 instances off the top of my head where I was my younger self, right? And I could have done something different, or if I would have listened to my body kind of thing, I probably would have chose that. Learning how to say no, boundaries, and just like you're saying, it plays a role in your health and well-being down the road. And I'm like so happy that you've written such a book for children, and also it's going to educate the parents as well. Have you been finding that?
Oh yeah, because parents are the ones that are going to buy it, right? It's for five and up, but it's
Right.
a children's book like this, or it's the parents, it's the grandparents, it's the aunts, it's the caregivers, it's the guardians, it's the teachers, it's the librarians, but it is the adults that are buying it usually for the children.
Yeah.
So I have to like market that and I always think about that. But the other thing I wanted to say is it sounds like it's very like such a simple concept when you read my book and you read the life lessons, like eating your vegetables and cleaning up. But it's actually, there's a lot of messaging in between that. Like I said, when I heard from some prophet or some spiritual guru
Mm,
recently made a statement. I can email it to you later because I don't want to chop it up. But it
yeah.
was something about when we're not technically supposed to feel fearful. Like
Mm,
the emotion of fear is not like a natural. It's like a it's like a negative thing in terms of you're not on the right path. So
right.
when you're on your divine path, I'm getting a little spiritual for a second. You're technically not supposed to feel fearful. And when you're on the right path and you're not feeling fearful, right now you're redirected. That's when you're on your life's purpose, and that's when you feel the best emotionally, physically, spiritually. That's when you feel the most confident, the most, the highest self-esteem. It's all there's a balance to it, but there's also a direction. And so that makes me think of my brother. As I said, the book can seem very simple, but it's multifaceted. My brother was the most self-confident person I had ever met, aside without tapping into like an arrogance. He
Right.
perfect balance of being very confident, without ever coming across cocky.
Mm,
I said it in the dedication, he was a magnetic light. People were literally drawn to him like light, like you are to light. He was just his everything from his beautiful smile and his white, perfect teeth to his charming personality to the fact that he was beyond talented. He was an artist, he was a magician, he was a mixologist, he was an actor. He had professors at his wake that hadn't seen him in 15 years and came up to
wow.
the casket and said, you know, we learned more from him than he could have ever learned from us. He was in Macbeth. The director said that. And
Wow.
yeah, he had over 500 people at his wake. And they say,
Wow.
loved you are until your funeral. And he wasn't a cop or a firefighter, where typically you have that many people because it's a brotherhood. The 75% of the people, we don't have 500 people in our family. It was his customers and the community members who were in tears telling us stories, personal stories of how much he affected them. So when I think of being on your life's path and being in um, the highest self-esteem that you're meant to feel, right? Without ever being fearful. I think of him. And
Mm,
I, life is a paradox because I don't think my book would be what it is if he wasn't gone. And so that's also a very hard pill to swallow.
yeah, I would agree with you on that. When we go through trauma and adversity, it's oddly enough the medicine that, kind of on the other side, but doesn't mean it's easy. And, um, I like that's unbelievable the way that you've turn something into such a light, for other people. Like you're just spreading that goodness. It's an extension of you. You're spreading that goodness out into families, children, helping them to raise their children better. And also giving these children a sense of their own empowerment. And not really, and not like questioning themselves, like, oh, did I really think that? Like my body is saying this, but like I don't know. That confidence that you were talking about, that self-esteem, is definitely, I would say, a byproduct of really tapping into your intuition and listening to your body. The body always keeps a score. It's just a matter of like, are you going to listen to it?
Right? Are you going to listen? That's the key.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what are some words of wisdom you would like to leave the listeners?
That we all have this gift. Don't be scared of it. We're all born with it, and it's intended to help us. It's not meant to hurt us or harm us. It's only meant to help us. In life, when we tap into our intuition and we listen to that voice, be it your conscience, your gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, it's truly there to help guide you on your life path. We all have our own path. And as soon as you start to feel fearful, just know that you might be veering off of it. And you got to meditate, you got to come back, go into a quiet space and listen because it's there to help you. And once you do that and you practice that skill, that technique, the voice might be a little stronger, a little louder. You might hear it more frequently, and you'll see. You could have a little mental checklist. You'll see the more I listen to it, the more that I'm making the right choice for myself. And I encourage children to share it with their friends, be the leader of the group, never be the follower, because it's going to help you. It's going to help your friends. It's going to help your family. Talk about it amongst your siblings. This is all very positive. I think it also aligns with the law of attraction. And so,
Mm-hmm.
the more positive we feel and being on that positive life path, the better we'll get there. And so, I just wish the best, that children have this ability. It's really, I just want to help. And it's also my way of honoring my brother. So,
Mm,
do that.
beautiful.
I
Thank you so much. That guys, parents out there, guardians, caregivers, you got children at home, this is the book. And it's also going to help you. I highly recommend share it around, tell other people about it. Let's really help raise the youth um in a better way so that, they can they're going to be the leaders, they're the next generation. So let's raise them right. And so where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, Renee Greene with an E at the end, Murphy.com, or my book is on Amazon and it's on Ingram. So it's in many different places, Barnes and Noble. It's hopefully going to take off. I just republished it this week. So within a week, it should be on all of those platforms. But definitely, you can always go back to my website, reneegreenemurphy.com or Amazon.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'll also, guys, I'll put this in the show notes so you can find the book as well. Your Heart's Voice. Thank you so much for coming on. I truly appreciate it. It was such a great conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Guys, if you like this episode, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.